It started with a discovery that no one was prepared for. A moment so disturbing that it instantly shattered the illusion of normalcy surrounding Johnathan Willette's life. What seemed like an ordinary existence, quiet routines, familiar surroundings and predictable habits, was suddenly exposed as something far more complicated and far more dangerous. Johnathan Willette was not someone who drew attention to neighbors and acquaintances. He appeared reserved, even forgettable. He had a routine, kept mostly to himself, and didn't raise alarms. People later described him as polite, calm, and somewhat distant, the kind of person you wouldn't suspect of living a double life. That assumption would prove to be a fatal mistake. The gruesome discovery came without warning. When authorities were called to the scene, they expected something routine. Instead, they walked into a situation that immediately suggested something was deeply wrong. The condition of the scene told a story before a single word was spoken. This was not an accident. This was not sudden misfortune. This was violence, deliberate and calculated. As investigators secured the area, every detail mattered. The positioning, the signs of struggle, and the unsettling evidence left behind pointed toward a crime that had unfolded over time, not in a single impulsive moment. Whoever was responsible had acted with intent, and possibly with confidence that the truth would remain hidden. The victim, identified as Johnathan Willette, quickly became the center of a growing investigation. But instead of answers, his identity raised more questions. There were inconsistencies in what people thought they knew about him. Conflicting stories emerged. Some knew him as quiet and withdrawn, while others described behavior that hinted at secrecy and control. As detectives began reconstructing Johnathan's final days, they uncovered patterns that no one had noticed before. Missed calls, unexplained absences, and digital footprints that didn't align with his known routine. His phone records suggested communications that were hidden, carefully managed, and in some cases deliberately erased. What made the case even more disturbing was how long these secrets had gone unnoticed. Johnathan had maintained an image that allowed him to move through life without scrutiny, but beneath that surface, there were signs of manipulation, deception, and emotional conflict that had slowly built towards something irreversible. Friends who were interviewed struggled to reconcile the person they thought they knew with the emerging evidence. Some recalled moments when Johnathan seemed tense, guarded, or unusually defensive. Others admitted there were times he vanished emotionally, as if carrying something he couldn't share. As the investigation progressed, authorities realized they weren't just dealing with a murder, but with the exposure of a hidden life. Financial records revealed unexplained transactions. Online activity showed connections that contradicted his public persona. Every layer pulled back revealed another contradiction. The timeline leading up to the murder became crucial. Detectives mapped Johnathan's movements hour by hour, searching for the moment when control slipped and violence took over. Surveillance footage placed him in locations he couldn't later explain. Witnesses recalled seeing him with individuals he had previously denied knowing. The more evidence collected, the clearer it became that this crime was rooted in secrecy. This wasn't random violence. It was the outcome of prolonged tension, hidden relationships, and decisions made in the shadows. Someone had reached a breaking point, and Johnathan's life ended as a result. As word of the case spread, public reaction intensified. Media coverage questioned how someone could live among others while hiding so much. The idea that a secret life could remain concealed for years unsettled people far beyond the immediate community. Investigators narrowed their focus to those closest to Johnathan, people who had access, opportunity, and knowledge of his private world. Interviews grew more intense. Stories shifted. Small details changed. What once sounded like confusion began to resemble deception. One individual, in particular, stood out, not because of emotional reactions, but because of the lack of them. Calm responses, carefully chosen words, and a reluctance to answer direct questions raised red flags. Experience told detectives that emotional distance often masks deeper involvement. When confronted with contradictions, this person's narrative began to unravel. Timelines collapsed under scrutiny. Alibis failed to hold. The evidence, once scattered, now formed a clear and disturbing picture. Johnathan Willette's secret life had finally been exposed, but the cost was devastating. A life was lost, and the truth emerged only through tragedy. The arrest marked a turning point, but it did not bring immediate clarity. Instead, it opened the door to even more disturbing revelations about the life Johnathan Willette had been living, and the events that led to his death. Investigators now had confirmation that this was not a simple case of violence, but a deeply personal crime rooted in betrayal and control. During questioning, the suspect's composure slowly faded. Pressure from the mounting evidence made silence harder to maintain. Digital records, financial trails, and witness statements worked together to dismantle the version of events that had been carefully constructed. As prosecutors prepared for trial, they focused on motive. This wasn't driven by chance. It was driven by resentment, fear of exposure, and a desperate attempt to maintain control. The secret life Johnathan had built became the very thing that destroyed him. The courtroom became the stage where those secrets were revealed publicly for the first time. Jurors listened as experts explained how the crime unfolded, how evidence connected individuals, and how the timeline pointed to premeditation rather than impulse. Forensic testimony was particularly unsettling. It confirmed that Johnathan's death was violent and intentional. The injuries told a story of struggle and desperation, a final confrontation where there was no escape. Witnesses described the emotional dynamics surrounding Johnathan. Tension, manipulation, and power struggles that had existed long before the crime. These accounts helped the jury understand how the situation escalated from secrecy to violence. The defense attempted to introduce doubt, suggesting alternative explanations and questioning the reliability of certain evidence. But each argument weakened under cross-examination. The facts remained consistent. The story they told did not change. What made the case resonate so deeply was its psychological dimension. This wasn't just about physical violence. It was about control, fear, and the consequences of living a life built on deception. Johnathan's secret world had created pressure that eventually exploded. When the verdict was delivered, it confirmed what the evidence had shown all along. Accountability was established, but closure remained elusive. For those affected, justice did not erase loss. The community was left grappling with uncomfortable truths. How well do we really know the people around us? How many lives exist behind carefully maintained appearances? The murder of Johnathan Willette forced these questions into the open. In the aftermath, attention turned to prevention and awareness. Investigators emphasized the importance of recognizing warning signs, addressing unresolved conflicts, and understanding how secrecy can escalate into danger. This case became a cautionary tale about ignoring subtle signals. Johnathan Willette's story is disturbing not only because of how it ended, but because of how long the truth remained hidden. His life was divided between what people saw and what he concealed. That division ultimately proved fatal. In true crime, there are cases defined by shock and others defined by sadness. This one is defined by both. A gruesome discovery revealed more than a murder. It exposed the cost of secrecy, the danger of emotional control, and the irreversible consequences of choices made in silence. In the end, this is not just a story about death. It is a reminder that hidden lives rarely stay hidden forever, and when they are finally exposed, the damage is often already done.